Hi, Oracle of Delray here to give a video. We have the eclipse coming up in a few days, total lunar eclipse in Virgo on Friday morning. If you're a night owl like me, you should be able to catch it. It's happening at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, and if a total lunar eclipse, it makes the moon look blood red. It makes it look bright red. That's what a lunar eclipse look like. The solar eclipse, as we know, it it blocks out the sun and gives us some nighttime during the day, but a lunar eclipse is when the shadow of the Earth causes a red shadow to occur over the moon. So it's also called a blood moon eclipse. Some Native American traditions are called this the crow moon. Because crows they're really active in my area right now, and they usually signal spring when they're cawing and they're yapping. The call of a crow is very recognizable. So let's get started on this lunar eclipse for the Crow moon, uh, wrapping up mid-March here and wrapping up Pisces. We're getting into the end of Pisces season, about to be an Aries season. A lot going on. So here is the eclipse. The closest time I got for the actual new moon is about 2:54 a.m. And it's close I got with the moon and the sun being directly opposite without going over. Um, So the eclipse or the new moon ends at 2:55 a.m. It's like between 2:54 and 2:55 that the exact eclipse happens. So looking at a zodiac chart, when we're looking at a new moon, the moon and the sun will be opposite each other. So if we look down at this bar down here, this is the sigil for the sun, and that's the moon, and you can see they're 0 degrees opposite each other. Um, so there's like that's like the orb. So for example, Mars here is trine the sun within 5 degrees. So it's an exact opposition, which is a new moon when they're in conjunction. So they're right next to each other, which is symbolized by this little two dot or the one circle with the line moving out. That's a conjunction. So we have Saturn and the sun. Yep, they're conjunction each other within a couple of degrees. Um, so looking at the chart, this symbolizes the sun. It can be found down here at 23 degrees Pisces. And then completely opposite in 23 degrees Virgo is the moon. Um, and so there's a lot going on here. Another way to look at this is kind of blurs out the rest of it. But eclipses happen when we have a new moon or a full moon happening near the north node. This little horseshoe looking symbol here is the north node, also called the true node. Um, but so it's happening within about 4 degrees of the node. I think it's about around 6 degrees if a new moon or a full moon occurs within 6 degrees on either side of the node, it is an eclipse. So these always happen near the node. It's also going to be conjunct the north node. The south node is not usually displayed on the chart, but it's exactly opposite of the north node, so it would be at about 27 degrees Virgo. So we have the moon by the south node and the sun in the where the north node is, or rather the earth is so on the zodiac wheel we can look at the sun and the earth as kind of one and the same. So where earth would be kind of relative to the zodiac um is where you can imagine where the sun is actually placed. So you can look at a zodiac wheel both geocentrically and heliocentrically. Um, Kind of a neat trick with astrology. But yeah, so a lot of stuff going on. We have the Saturn is by this eclipse, also Neptune. We have Neptune transiting into Aries at the end of the month, March 30th. Neptune moves into Aries for the first time in a couple hundred years. That's really exciting. So this eclipse happening right by that transit point gives it a lot of power. So it's a really potent eclipse to really kind of initiate a lot of stuff happening into the collective and throughout the world and stuff like that, and also personally. If you're a mutable sign, so mutable is going to be Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces. Mutable signs make up the end of their respective seasons. So Virgo's like end of summer, Pisces is end of winter, um, Sagittarius end of fall, and Gemini end of spring. Um, So the mutable signs mark the end of their respective seasons. So this eclipse will be particularly powerful for mutable signs, like how the Neptune transiting into Aries is going to be very powerful for the fixed signs. That's Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. They start their respective seasons. So we're moving in from the end of the zodiac in Pisces into Aries. It's always a significant transition period um, because it kind of starts the zodiac new and stuff like that. So Neptune moving into 0 degrees Aries, it's starting fresh on that zodiac wheel. The last time Neptune was in Aries, literally the last full day Neptune was in Aries, the Civil War began in the United States. It was the day the Civil War began, was Neptune's last full day in Aries. So um, Aries ruled by Mars, deals with a lot of conflict, and we'll see later on in this presentation that this eclipse also involves a lot of conflict and possibly, those kind of like negative kind of. I feel like we're in the calm before the storm, so like very stormy kind of energy coming up here. Um, so. So this eclipse is happening at 23 degrees Pisces and 23 degrees Virgo, and the nodes are about 4 degrees away at 27 degrees Pisces and Virgo, respectively. So we have the moon right next to the south node and the sun right next to the north node. And the nodes in astrology, depending on which school of thought you go with, can mean a lot of different things. They're usually associated with things like destiny and fate, and where we're all heading towards, both collectively and individually, the future and stuff like that. So North Node is kind of like the zodiacal compass uh, that kind of puts everything together on a chart, heading into a direction into the future and heading towards something. So kind of what the nodes represent. So the Virgo Pisces axis, so you can really view the signs as like opposite another sign. So like the 12th and the 6th house, Pisces governs the 12th house, Virgo governs the 6th house, and they're opposite each other. Just like how Sagittarius and Gemini are opposite each other, Cancer and Capricorn are opposite each other, Scorpio, Taurus, Virgo, and Pisces. So we call signs or houses that are opposite each other, we refer to it as an axis in astrology. And so we look at kind of elements that they work together, even though they're very different, they work together. Um, so with Pisces ending the zodiac and being the 12th house, in a lot of traditions, the zodiac wheel is looked at as in terms of like human development towards enlightenment, and like becoming self-actualized and becoming a fully realized, enlightened human being and stuff like that. And it's like you take the journey starting at the self house with, I think, therefore I am, I exist, and the grappling of, being someone who exists all the way through the houses to the 12th house, and it's like existing as an enlightened person. So the zodiac wheel kind of maps that journey towards enlightenment and being self-actualized and living your best life and stuff like that. And it's like traditionally concludes at the 12th house, which is the last house, or in the last sign of Pisces. And so sign of Pisces, as well as the 12th house, deals with like reckoning with the divine, reckoning with your place in existence or within the eternal present moment, however you want to see it. But really reckoning with your selfhood and the divine and your place in existence, and being one of many consciousness and existence and stuff like that. And it's about having wanting to coexist harmoniously with other people, being very low conflict, being very self-actualized, like the best version of yourself is reached at the 12th house in the Pisces at the end of the zodiac. That's the point of the journey, is to be the best version of yourself, which has the least amount of conflict with others. Or when you do have conflict, as righteous and it's correct and it helps them out as well as maintains your enlightened state. And so there's this old Zen Buddhist koan that I really like playing with and meditating on. It's before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And I thought this was very apropos, talking about the Virgo Pisces axis, because Virgo, 6th house, that deals with self-care, that deals with making sure you're healthy, making sure, your daily routine, your daily tasks, taking care of yourself, making sure you have food, shelter, water, heat, and just daily life, daily routine, eating food that's right for you. Not necessarily diet or something like that, but stuff that makes your body feel good, makes your body feel full and energized, and what gives you energy. and stuff like that. So the sixth house is really about self-care. It's also about helping others and being of service to others. But like before you can be of service to others, you have to make sure yourself is taken care of. You can't be depleted. You can't be running on an empty pot trying to fill up other people's teacups. It doesn't work out very well for either party, in that sense. And so the Virgo and the sixth house energy really deals with taking care of ourselves first, putting ourselves as priority so that we can be of service to others, so that we do not, ruin someone's day by being a part of their day, right? We want to show up, and when we interact with others, we want to be a good part of their day. We want to really add positive energy to any environment that we walk into, right? We don't want to be Debbie Downers, be those Deborah Downers. We want to be able to bring a positive energy and make the room happier, make the room a brighter place because we are in it and stuff like that. But like, in order to do that, we have to really take care of ourselves first and just make sure we're getting enough sleep, make sure we're getting enough to eat and stuff like that. And so the eclipse really focuses, is really going to draw attention to where are you at? How are you self-caring? Is your diet based upon, like projections from the collective of beauty standards, or is it based upon what actually makes your body feel good? I'm not about the diet mentality. I'm about eating what makes you feel good, what gives you energy, what makes, what goes well in your system and stuff like that, keeps you regular, so to speak. But it's about taking care of your body's needs, making sure you're well hydrated if you're a person that needs a lot of water throughout your day and stuff like that, making sure your home is stable, making sure, your relationships are healthy and stuff like that. So this eclipse is really asking us to like look inward, like how are we taking care of ourselves? Are we taking care of ourselves to the best extent, to the fullest extent that we need to be doing to live this life to the best of our, living our best life? And so once we so before enlightenment in the sixth house, we're chopping wood, carrying water, we're figuring out how to take care of ourselves, we're balancing taking care of ourselves before helping others and stuff like that. Um, and then it's like after enlightenment, it's like, you reach enlightenment, you reach a state of awakening, you reach a state of peace with your place in existence and reality and stuff like that. And it's like, well, your stomach still growls. You still have to, it's still cold outside, people really talk about the enlightened state in so many ways. People have a lot of different views and definitions of what it means to be enlightened or what it means to be awakened and stuff like that. But, it really, this quote, and I love it so much because it really grounds it from being this kind of like mystical woo-woo thing, enlightenment, to like, we're still human after we're enlightened. We're still human after, we graduate consciousness school, and we're happy with where we are in the present moment and stuff like that. And, we still have to take care of ourselves. We still have to do the kind of daily tasks. One play that I like to do on this quote is before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, sip water, is how I've modified it in my grappling with this koan. Because Buddhist koans, you're supposed to kind of like meditate on them, grapple with them, ponder and kind of like think on them. A lot of them are like puzzles, to like really bring about states of awakening and enlightenment and stuff like that. And so how I've toyed with this one is after enlightenment, chop wood, sip water. I take the metaphor of like, I view water as very metaphorical for emotions. We're dealing with Pisces, which is a water sign, very emotional. And so water, when we're thinking about this quote, literally when we're chopping wood, when we're carrying water, water is very heavy. To carry water and wood after chopping wood, that's a lot of weight. It's a lot of work. It's all about optimizing. Um, so you instead of carrying water, you find streams to sip from on your way back hauling wood. Or you drink water as you need it. You don't carry it with you. You trust that the environment will provide it for you. When you reach enlightenment, you kind of have more trust in your present moment. You have trust that life will work out in the way that's best for you and stuff like that. And so it's like after enlightenment, you trust that you're going to find water when you need it. Instead of carrying it around, worrying about what's going to happen, am I prepared for what's next? It's like, no, I trust that it will be there. I trust I will find a stream to sip from when I am thirsty. I trust that I will find water along my journey. So that's how I've kind of modified this quote to be chop wood, sip water after enlightenment. And so that really gets us to the Pisces axis, right? So Cancer and Scorpio are the two other water signs, and they're a lot more associated with emotions, whereas like Pisces, like in the way like the enlightened, the awakened, the like acidic version of Pisces is like they're the kind of least emotional of the water signs, but their emotions have so much depth. Is how I view like Piscean energy with emotions and stuff like that. And so it's not about abandoning emotions, it's about appreciating emotions for their full beauty, for their full scope, for their full spectrum and stuff like that. Um, of how they make us feel and how they present themselves via sensation and stuff like that. And it's being able to appreciate it's be able to feel the depths of the emotion, but not get attached to them, as an indication of anything, about our state of mind, our state of being and stuff like that. Um, and so the Virgo Pisces axis is like when we take care of ourselves and other people, and then we do it physically, take care of our needs and those who are close to us and stuff like that. And then we move on to like the spiritual progression, the 12th house, which is really about um chopping wood, sipping water, trusting in your environment, trusting in your reality, and trusting that emotions are to be enjoyed and to be felt and to experience and not to try to like run away with them or shy and but like treat them for the depth and the variety and the spice of life that they bring to us. Um, so yeah, this eclipse is very much asking us to, check in with ourselves, first physically and then spiritually and emotionally. Spiritually and emotionally can be kind of two sides of the same coin, spirituality and emotionality. Um, so how we are spiritually really reflects how we are emotionally and vice versa. Um, but the Pisces, get into the graduated, the Siddhic version of the water signs is like not becoming attached to an emotional state, understanding them as fleeting, understanding them as giving variety to life and experience and stuff like that, and not, getting too caught up in like grief, for example, and like turning grief into verklempt and more to catharsis and stuff like that, and feeling it and experiencing it as not so much a negative sensation or a sensation that we try to avoid, but like one that we embrace and enjoy and can find gratitude for and appreciation for, where we might not have found that before for those kinds of emotions. Um, so it's really about taking stock in where you're at physically, which leads, like, you have to take care of your physical because it's going to interrupt your emotions, and then where you're at emotionally is where the eclipse is asking us to look at in terms of how it will affect us personally. So, collectively, this is a little bit of a spicy eclipse, a little bit of a spicy eclipse. Looking at astrology and how it lines up with the I Ching Book of Destinies, I Ching, I'm not quite sure how that's pronounced. We're looking at hexagram 36 and 6. Um, hexagram 36 is also called the hexagram of crisis. One of its names is time of darkness in the Buddhist I Ching. And it kind of governs the last degrees before the anarectic of Pisces, which is the anarectic is the 29th degree of any respective sign. So it's the last degrees leading up to the final degree of Pisces. It's about 22 degrees Pisces or 28 degrees Pisces. It's in this hexagram, which is the time of darkness. And, these two hexagram are also associated with Eden. Um, So Garden of Eden, the earth, the climate, ecology, how we can view Earth or Gaia and how we've trashed it or not, or beautified it, made it better. That can be debated whether human civilization has improved the planet or trashed it. I'm on the side of trashed it, but there's optimism for the ways it can be improved. Um, but before we can have a better society and stuff like that, there is always going to be conflict or crisis, whenever you're changing, we go through personal changes all the time. We can change jobs, change houses, add someone to the family, meet a new friend, stuff like that. We're always experiencing changes, but it's like when there's social changes, when there's civilization changes, those are a lot more difficult for us to handle on a personal level, because we kind of trust in that stability of our social institutions and stuff like that, which we rely on for our own survival. We rely on the stability of society for our own survival. And so when there's big changes to society or big changes to civilization, it kind of tugs at those fears of our personal survival and stuff like that. And so they can be a little bit difficult to deal with. And that's why it's really important going into this eclipse, to really take stock of where you're at in terms of physical needs, stuff like that, as well as emotional needs. Because if we are on, some kind of civilization, if something's going to pop up, in the geopolitical stage, which it's liable, with who we have in the presidency right now, and we have elections in Canada going on, and Russia, Ukraine continues to be a thing. So anything can change. We just had COVID-19 a couple years ago, uh, almost 6 years ago now. Or is it 5 years ago? I don't know. But so COVID-19 is like the last like big societal disruption I would say that we've had, or the last like qualified societal disruption. And this could indicate something to that magnitude, um, not necessarily a pandemic, but sixth house Virgo does deal with health and illness and stuff like that, health and wellness. So pandemic isn't necessarily out of the question. If there's going to be a kind of a global conflict or some kind of collapse or some kind of like big pivotal change in civilization. Um, this does have that potent energy to kind of bring about big changes within civilization. Big events might happen around the time of the eclipse or in the week following and stuff like that, especially related to health, infrastructure. So, the sixth house Virgo, where the moon is and where the south node is, it deals with like, if we think about it in terms of our bodies, when it comes to like personal astrology, we could think of it as in terms of our infrastructure, our hospitals, our roads, stuff like that, what we use to like maintain ourselves, both individually as well as socially in a civilization sense. Um, so we could be going through a time of darkness, so to speak. Um, in terms of, in order to make change, to improve our civilization, to go head towards that utopia where we can trust in the present moment and like, reach that kind of Piscean 12th house Sidhic kind of energy, whereas if we don't, where we just have, kind of radical trust in our lives, radical trust of what happens to us, whether it's what we want to be happening or not, but trusting that we're going to be okay at the end, that we're heading in the right direction, that we are progressing towards the future that we want for ourselves and each other. Um, and so, with that said, um, establishing that trust in the present moment, first we do in our lives, then we can kind of like, it doesn't matter what comes on the news, it doesn't matter what shows up in the zeitgeist. If we fundamentally trust our present moment and trust ourselves to take care of ourselves, and I have like our grounded security established, doesn't matter what comes on the news, we're prepared for it. So it's really good to look at this eclipse in that way, like on the personal level. It really kind of gives us take heed to really evaluate where we're at in terms of our strengths and weaknesses and health and stuff like that. So once we can take care of ourselves at home and our immediately family units and our relationships, stuff like that, then we can take on the world and trust in our present moment, even when there is like disrupting stuff going on. Um, so this is the hexagram 36, which is a time of darkness. These are the top. So first line is a yang. The unbroken lines are yangs, and then the broken lines are yins. And so the first line is down at the bottom, and the sixth line up here at the top. Sixth yin, top yin is what it would be referred to in the I Ching, and bottom yang. So it's yang, yin, yang, yin, yin, yin are the six lines of the 36 hexagram. So time of darkness. So opposite of that hexagram, it's, as you'll notice, it's the top three. Instead of yin, they're yang. So yang, 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 yin, yang, yang. And so it's a complete reverse. It's how these line up to the zodiac. Um, so this also calls for dispute. Um, it's it could go along well with there's a lot of trade wars going on, a lot of talk of disputes and conflicts and laws and litigation and stuff like that. The sixth hexagram really governs that kind of like legal activity, law activity, especially in terms of conflicts, disputes, war, and stuff like that. Um, it doesn't seem like, I mean, World War III or IV or whatever could happen at any time, I guess. But it doesn't seem like we're on the brink of anything in terms of like violence. Trade war, however, seems to be happening and in full swing right now. Of course, there's threats from everywhere, but we have a kind of a mutually assured destruction thing going on with our nuclear arsenals with all the countries. So that's good. So I don't think we're going to be seeing anything kind of like that. But in terms of like bio warfare or economic warfare, that stuff is possible. Um, and when we're in the last degrees of Virgo, in the dispute hexagram or the hexagram of conflict. So I don't think, I mean, knock on wood, nothing bad's going to happen. But if it does, I don't see it so much in like bombs and like classic war destruction, but either biological, health related, infrastructure related, um, stuff like that. So maybe get some water filters. Maybe not a bad idea to get some water filters and just kind of take stock of emergency supplies and stuff like that, first aid kits. And dealing with this Virgo theme, it's always good to just make sure you're prepared. We can trust in our present moment, but we still have to prepare ourselves. We still have to chop wood. We still have to be responsible for our present moment and be responsible for our safety and security and stuff like that. Um, but first is figuring out, what keeps our body safe and secure during normal times, and then it's like, what could we possibly need in case of emergency? We're coming up to storm season as well. It's about to be tornado season in the United States. Um, End of April be, I mean, May is when it really starts going. But March, April, we can see stuff popping up, and then followed by tornado season is hurricane season. So springtime, this early time in spring, is a really good time to kind of take stock of where we're at in terms of medical supplies, health supplies, backup medication, stuff like that. It's always good to prepare for any kind of disaster, but I feel like preparing for weather disaster, number one, that's the most likely disaster any of us can face here in the United States is a weather-related emergency. So because it is common, those are common enough for us to experience it at least once in a lifetime, stuff like that, power outages, floods, storm damage. It's always good, I think, to prepare for some kind of storm emergency, and that also prepares you for other types of emergencies that might be able to pop up. But preparing seriously for like a storm kind of disaster, um, taking that kind of preparation seriously will have you prepared for so many other things. But it's also very practical if you view it from a framework of like preparing for a storm and stuff like that, because with climate change and stuff like that, weather seasons are getting harder to predict. There's cuts to NOAA and NWS. Hopefully they're doing the right thing up there. We'll see. But even we're in a post-climate change world, so storms and stuff can get harder to predict and harder to understand. So it's always good to be kind of prepared and like self-sufficient as much as you possibly can be, and not reliant on, the aspects of civilization that might be in a little bit of uh reconstruction right now, hopefully. So um that's basically it. Of course, if you want to get a personal reading, I do private videos. Um, Reading your chart, I have many different types of readings. Horary reading, which is asking me a question. Transit readings, which is looking at your chart for an upcoming time period or event. Or I could like look at your chart, see where this eclipse is happening in your chart, for example, and see how the eclipse will personally affect you in your chart like that. I also do draconic readings, which is past life readings. As well as synastry readings, or just comparing two or more charts. But yeah, it can be emailed at the Oracle of Delray at gmail.com. Tips and stuff is always accepted at my Cash App, which is Coffee Crow 420. That said, I hope you have a beautiful eclipse. If you're a night owl like me, hope you can watch it. Um, and have a great end of mid to end of Pisces season. Thank you so much for watching. Um, and I will catch you on the next video.